Welcome back to Rory's Stories of Story Time. The topic of today is my wife cheated on me with a friend of ours. My wife, 27-year-old female, cheated on me with a friend of mine. 27-year-old male, we'll call him Jay. I am also a 27-year-old male. I met my wife when I was 22 at another friend's wedding. She was a good friend of the bride, and I was a friend of the groom. They sat us at the table so we could get to know each other. When I first seen her, I was completely taken back by how beautiful she was. And when she sat down and started talking, we found out that we had a lot of things in common. We clicked instantly. We talked for a while, both found out that we were HBCU graduates, and both had dreams of changing the world in our own little ways. After we ate, we took straight to the dance floor. We ended up kissing in the middle of the dance floor. And when we pulled away, our friends, the bride and groom, came up to us and asked us what was going on between us. But they were really excited to play matchmaker. We just shrugged it off and carried on with our night. We left, not exchanging numbers, but a week later I got a text from her asking me out. The bride gave her my number. Of course I said yes, and it turned into a relationship. The relationship was great. Other than small arguments, we never really fought. And it was never anything really serious. I eventually asked her to marry me. About 2 years into us dating, and we were married. Less than a year later. We were married for a little more than a year when it all came crashing down on me. Just before our first anniversary, there were little things that were irritating me. She began more guarded of her phone. Girls' nights became more frequent, and our sex life was almost non-existent. I had brought this up on multiple occasions, but it was brushed off, and that I'm letting my insecurities get to me. She would continue to go on as if I felt and tried to communicate didn't matter to her. So I became colder and colder. I stopped giving her a goodbye kiss as I left for work, and unless it was something important, we hardly spoke. One night, she slept. I took her phone and her laptop, skimmed through her texts, emails, and messenger apps, and found nothing. I grabbed her car keys and looked in her car and found a second phone. I knew in that instant what was going on, but I wanted all the evidence for when I call her out. I didn't want her to say something like, I had only happened once, or anything stupid like that. I looked through her phone and found that only one number was in it. I read through every message. I connected the phone to my computer and printed out every message and every photo. I spent that night researching divorce lawyers. I spent hours of my day and in my home office reading bios of lawyers and found one I liked and emailed him. But it was Saturday. He wasn't in the office. I then wanted to know who the guy was. So I grabbed my phone, typed the number, and I wanted to call, pretend I'm Spectrum. But Jay's contact popped up. It took me a minute to put two and two together, but when I did, I blew up. I was yelling and cursing in my office, and my wife opened the door to check on me, but when I seen her, I told her to get the fuck out. She closed the door and went to our room. I had never cursed at my wife or raised my voice above normal volume. All of the day, I never left my office. I was just silently raging, just glaring at the wall. I called one of my friends, the groom from the wedding, and told him I needed to go for a drink and asked if he'll come with me. He must have heard something in my voice because he asked if I was okay. I told him I wasn't, and I really needed a drink. So without word, I took all the printouts and left to go to the bar. I arrived first, ordered 4 shots of Jack and a beer. I was on my last shot when my friend, we'll call him T, arrived and asked what's going on. I told him straight out, man, she's cheating. And I asked if he wanted to know with who. And I told him it was Jay. He became visibly irritated. He was the one that introduced me to Jay, and all he could say was, man, I'm sorry, over and over. Jay and I were never super close. We wouldn't ask one another to hang out, but if we see each other or we see each other at get-togethers, we were friendly. He was cool. I told T, don't mention this to anyone, as I had just found out and I haven't even spoken to my wife or a lawyer yet. I asked him not to tell his wife, and if she asked what was wrong with me, just say I'm having problems at work, and he agreed. We drank and talked for most of the night. I called an Uber and went home around 3 a.m. It was the first time I looked at my phone since I called T, and there was missed calls, a bunch of texts from my wife, asking me where I was and what time I'd be home, and if I was okay. I got home and she was asleep on the couch. I just walked upstairs to the bedroom and went to sleep. I woke up with her in the bed, so I got dressed and just left the house. I went to go pick up my car and go to the office and bury myself in work for the day and went back home around 10 p.m. To my surprise, my wife was there to greet me, and she told me she had made me dinner. She asked if I wanted her to heat it up. I told her no and went to bed. She followed soon after asking what's been wrong with me. I told her to leave me alone and that I wanted to sleep. She kept persisting in me. Eventually I snapped and yelled at her, "I'm trying to sleep. Go away." The next morning I received the email from the lawyer asking to meet later in the day, and I confirmed and got ready for my day. I went downstairs to leave, and my wife was making breakfast, asking to talk. I made a small plate, sat down. She started off by saying I've been acting different and going on and on about how I changed, and she wants to know why. I told her work has been stressful, and soon it'll be over. I finished up and told her I have to go. I went to my office and counted down the minutes to meet the lawyer. When I left, I told my assistant I'm going out for lunch with a client. The meeting with the lawyer went well. I handed over all I had gathered on her, and the lawyer told me, "Well, I'm sorry for all this that's going on, but I'm happy you gathered all this information. You see, we live in an at-fault state, so your wife has no claim on most of your money." I told him I didn't even think about the money. I was just thinking that get this divorce on her ass as soon as possible. He asked if he could keep the evidence, but I told him I preferred he just make copies, as I haven't told my wife yet, and when I do tell her, I don't need to hear all them BS excuses. I have all the receipts in front of me. After his assistant made the copies, I asked him when will the papers be served. He told me in about 2 weeks. I thanked him and left. I went home to confront my wife. When I arrived, she wasn't home. So I called her, no answer. Called again, no answer. I text her, "I don't give a F if you're riding J right now. Get home, we need to talk." And lo and behold, she calls me not a minute later asking what I was talking about. I told her to get her ass home now. She arrived to the house 15 minutes later. I said, "Wow, it takes about 15 minutes to get from Jay's house to here." She looked at me dumbfounded. I gave her a minute to gather herself, but she was just looking at me. I said, "Well, nothing to say?" She tried to deny and gaslight me, and I let her continue on, so she worked herself up and started to insult me. I slammed my fist on the table, gathered all the evidence, and showed it to her from the side. So look at this mountain of things I gathered on you. I showed her each printout and everything. She started to realize. I said, "Baby, you were so adamant and degraded me a little while ago," and she tries to hug me. I said, "Sorry, baby girl, you'll never touch me again." She started to cry and apologize and tell me she loved me. I said, "Honey, what happened to all that energy you had before?" I left the house. That was 3 days ago. I haven't even tried to reach out from her or answer the phone calls or text messages since. From here on out, I'll let the lawyer do his thing, and I'll update everyone soon.